All right, let's jump right into a really powerful idea from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's one of those concepts that can totally shift how you think about getting things done. We're talking about the incredible power of just showing up and doing the work, even when it's not perfect, instead of getting stuck trying to figure out the perfect plan.
So, let me ask you a question. If you wanted to create something truly great, what should you focus on? Should you pour all your energy into one single flawless masterpiece? Or should you just churn out a whole bunch of stuff and see what sticks? It's that classic debate, right? Quantity versus quality. And the answer is, well, it's not what you'd expect.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at a fascinating real-world experiment. Picture this, a film photography class at the University of Florida. The professor, Jerry Elsman, decides he's going to test this idea out, so he splits his class right down the middle.
Okay, so here's how the experiment worked. On one side, you have the quantity group. Their grade was based purely on the amount of work they produced. 100 photos got you an A. Super simple. On the other side, you have the quality group. They only had to turn in one photo, but it had to be nearly perfect to get an A. Same goal, totally different game plans.
So who do you think took the best pictures? Well, here's the twist. At the end of the term, the professor was stunned to find that all the best photos, every single one, came from the quantity group. While the quality students were busy theorizing about what makes a perfect photo, the quantity kids were out there just taking pictures. Hundreds of them. They were experimenting, messing up, learning from their mistakes, and actually getting better. They learned by doing.
And this is a perfect example of that old saying from Voltaire. By chasing after the single best photo, the quality group ended up paralyzed. They got so caught up in the idea of perfection that they didn't get the practice they needed. And this brings us to a really crucial distinction that James Clear talks about.
He calls it the difference between being in motion versus taking action. Now, they sound pretty similar, right? But in the world of building habits, they are worlds apart. One gets you results, and the other, well, it just keeps you busy.
Let's break this down a bit. Motion is planning. It's outlining 20 ideas for an article or researching the best diet plan. It feels like you're making progress, but you haven't actually produced anything. Action, on the other hand, is what delivers an outcome. It's not just outlining, it's writing the article. It's not just researching, it's eating the healthy meal. It's the difference between getting ready to do the work and actually doing it.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we all know deep down that action is what really counts, why do we spend so much time stuck in motion? Why do we love to plan and research and strategize instead of just getting started?
The answer is actually pretty simple. Because motion is safe. It gives us the feeling of making progress without any of the risk of actually failing. You see, if you never actually write the article, no one can say it's bad. If you're just researching diets, you can't fail at sticking to one. Motion is basically the ultimate form of procrastination. It's a way to put off failure. But here's where things get really, really cool. When you push yourself past that comfortable motion stage and start taking action over and over again, you are literally, physically, changing the structure of your brain. It's not a metaphor. Every single repetition is building something new inside your head.
There's a scientific term for this. It's called long-term potentiation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea is actually super simple. The more you do something, the stronger and more efficient the connections between the brain cells, the neurons responsible for that action, become. It's like paving a dirt path into a superhighway.
And there's this fantastic, simple way to remember it from a neuropsychologist named Donald Hebb. He summed it all up in this catchy phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every single time you practice a habit, you're strengthening that neural circuit, making it just a little bit easier and more automatic for the next time. And the proof for this is just incredible. Scientists have looked at the brains of all kinds of experts. Musicians, for example, have a larger cerebellum, which helps with fine motor skills. Mathematicians have more gray matter in the part of the brain used for calculation. And maybe my favorite example, London taxi drivers, who have to memorize thousands of streets, have a noticeably larger hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Your brain is literally shaped by the reps you put in.
Okay, so what does all this brain science mean for us? Well, it leads to the next huge insight. If repetition is what's actually rewiring our brains, then the most important factor in building a habit isn't how long you've been doing it. It's something else entirely.
Come on, we've all heard this question a million times, right? And we've all heard the answers. It takes 21 days, or no, it takes 66 days. We're obsessed with the timeline. But it turns out we've been asking the completely wrong question.
The real question isn't how long does it take? The question you should be asking is how many repetitions does it take? Think about it. Time doesn't really matter if you're not putting in the work. It's the frequency of the action, the sheer number of reps, that forges the habit.
So what's the end game here? What are we aiming for with all these reps? It's a state called automaticity. That's the magic point where a behavior becomes so ingrained that you do it without thinking. It's like tying your shoes. You don't consciously think through each step, right? Your non-conscious mind has just taken over. That's a true habit.
And the path to get there is pretty straightforward. At first, any new habit takes a ton of effort. You have to be fully focused. Then, after a few reps, it starts to get a little easier, though you still need to pay attention. But finally, after enough practice, you cross what James Clear calls the habit line. The action is now automatic. You've basically installed new software in your brain.
All right, let's bring this all home. When you take the lesson from that photography class and you combine it with the neuroscience of how our brains work, what's the one big takeaway? The one thing you need to remember? It's incredibly simple, but it's not always easy.
You just have to get your reps in. That's it. If you really want to master a habit, the key is to focus on repetition, not perfection. Stop worrying about having the perfect strategy. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Just show up and start your first rep.
So let's lock this in. First, always choose action over motion. Second, remember that every single rep is literally rewiring your brain for the better. Third, habits are built on frequency, how many times you do something, not how many days have passed. And finally, the best way to learn anything is to practice it, not just plan for it.
And that leaves me with one final question for you. Forget about your grand 5-year plan for just a second. Instead of getting stuck in motion, planning for tomorrow, what is one small rep, one tiny action you can take today, right now?